So like it or not, Kyle, if you're not ready, we're going. We're live.
Right. Here we are again.
And we kept our promise. We said that we would try to hold to one every month. And this is faster than a month. So we're good to go. I feel good about that.
Continuous improvement.
Continuous improvement. So those of you that were annoyed by our audio last week, and I know a few of you were, including myself, we tried to improve this month. Or this time. So let us know if you have any other suggestions, because it needed to be improved. So anyway, today Kyle and I are going to talk about bear hunting in North America as well as internationally. Touch the difference between bear species, different styles, and availability that we have for this season. Does that sound about right, Kyle?
Yep, absolutely.
I set up a teleprompter thing for that, and it was like twice as fast as I could read.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah. And I also want to mention on the continuous improvement of the podcast, at the end of the last podcast, we asked people to reach out to us if they had any feedback. And I actually did have a few people reach out to me. So one of my clients that's going with us for caribou this fall, he reached out. He was a huge help. That was Ben you talked to. Had a couple people on Instagram reach out and say, hey, I like this or didn't like that. And that's what we want to hear. So, yeah, starting the podcast and ending the podcast with, we want to hear from you. This is going to be very feedback based regarding bear hunting. This is kind of an overview today, but at the end of the podcast, if there's anything that you want to hear more about, specific topics, whether that be like travel, gear, guns, cartridges, tactics, more about one species versus another, or in very specific hunt, please reach out to us. So we want to know what you guys want to hear. We can't do that if you don't reach out.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Dig in. This is your podcast. I'm just here to look pretty.
Right on. Well, I hit Cory up this week and was like, let's talk about bears. So bear hunting is one of my favorite hunts, especially big bears in Alaska. But we're going to touch on not only brown and grizzly bears in Alaska, but also brown bears internationally. I'll touch on a little bit of other bear species like polar bear, black bear, so on and so forth. But like I said, this is a hunt that means a lot to me. I've been on a few of them myself and love bear hunting, and just want to connect with some viewers about it, talk about it, and here we go. So we're going to start out with a book recommendation for those that are watching on YouTube. This is called Bear Hunting in Alaska. It's regarded as the Bible of bear hunting. Why is that important? Because this book was written in like the 80s or 90s, but all of the concepts, tactics that applied then also apply now. Just the gear's a little outdated in the book. And every professional grizzly bear and brown bear guide that I've hunted with, and most outfitters that I've spoken with, actually own this book. And so now anytime that I assist one of my clients with planning a bear hunt, especially in Alaska, brown or grizzly bear, I actually recommend to them, after you've booked your hunt, why don't you go ahead, order this book on Amazon or wherever you like to get books. Give it a read. It's very insightful, a little old school, but like I said, the concepts that were true 40 years ago are still true today. The animals have not changed. It was extremely helpful, especially I went on my first grizzly bear hunt, very short notice, didn't know a lot about it. I went back on my second grizzly bear hunt 2 years later and gained so much insight by speaking to references, outfitters, doing readings about it. Yeah. So great book. It's the gold standard of educational big bear hunting in Alaska. I think you'll enjoy it.
Awesome. Let's talk about your bear hunts.
Talk about the bear hunts. So I've personally been fortunate to take 3 different grizzly bears in Alaska. The first was actually a short notice cancellation that I added on to a caribou hunt. I was doing a drop camp up in northern Alaska. And a few weeks before the hunt, our operator out of the same region hit me up. They had a few cancellations, and one of them lined up perfectly with me coming out of the field, taking a short break, and then going straight back in for a bear hunt. And it made sense at the time. I'd been wanting to get on the ground with them. They had an opening, and it was one of those deals where hadn't hunted big bears in Alaska before, and it's like, yeah, let's go see what this is about. Made it work, and I was fortunate to get my very first grizzly bear on the very first day of the hunt. Actually, that one right there.
Oh, the one right behind you?
Yep, the rug right behind me. The thing has just unbelievable fur. It was a ancient sow that was like 20, 25 years old, no teeth, super, super long, thick fur, north of the Arctic Circle there in the fall. So incredible fur quality. Lots of salmon runs in that area. So big, healthy, fat bear. And we actually thought
This
it
one,
was an
right?
old. Yep,
Is it
that's the
this
one.
one? Yeah.
Yep, believe it or not, that's actually a sow. That bear
Really?
kind
I
of
didn't
flew.
realize that.
Yep, that was an ancient sow. Like we're talking like missing teeth, flat molars, very, very old bear. Broken ear, missing half its nose, just a warrior. So, but that's one of the things that can happen with bear hunting, because bears are some of the hardest animals to judge. And there's absolutely no shame in taking an ancient sow over a boar, honestly. They're both trophy animals. So that was my very first bear. My second bear was in 2022, actually. And that was a boar that was just under 8 feet. He was a dark chocolate boar. I took him.
Is this
Yeah,
it?
that did right there.
Yep. I love that picture, by the way.
Yeah, that was a really special hunt. Those hunts are set up typically on a 9-day schedule, and I set mine up on a 12-day. That way we'd have a lot more time to judge bears, look over bears, possibly move if we needed to move locations. On that hunt right there, that's actually the most popular grizzly bear hunt that we send clients on right now. In the last 5 years, just a little insight, I have had one client not have an opportunity on a bear. And I send 8 to 10 clients there a year right now.
Yeah.
So I would say somewhere between 30 to 50% of bears killed make the Boone and Crockett record books of 24 inches or larger. The largest bear that any of my clients killed is pushing 26 inches. So that's real big.
Yeah.
And like
No,
8.5 foot.
what was yours? What'd yours measure?
Mine was like a 16th under 24, like just
Okay.
barely missing the Crockett after it dried.
And what did he square?
710, 711, 710, 711.
What did that big sow square?
I actually never measured the sow, but I'm getting right at about 7 right there. Real
Monster.
short and stocky. And
Yeah,
so we
for a
actually,
sow, though, that's big.
like sow, that's real big. I mean, that's still 450 pound, 500 pound sow.
Super
And the
cool.
boar that I killed in 22, that was probably a 700 pound bear feeding on
Really?
salmon. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. And you guys can go, just for the record, you can go to our site, Outdoors International, and read all those trip reports. Kyle's done a good trip report on every one of them. So hit them and read those up. We have a bunch of them.
Yeah. Each and every one has been special for its own reason. And my first bear was my first bear. I didn't know what to expect. I went in just, hey, let's, try to get a good bear. If I get one, I get one. If I don't, I don't. And I tagged out on the first day. That was awesome. And then my second bear, I took him on the 8th day after passing probably 30 different boars looking for just the right one. And we
30?
saw over 30 boars. Yeah. And actually on that same hunt, my client, John, he was going to be in town at the same time. And I offered to have him jump in and hunt with me. And we actually put him on a bear the very first morning that he flew in. So he flew in the night before because you have to wait overnight. That'd be right there. Yeah. That bear actually scored 24 and 5/16, and I want to say it was 8 foot 1 squared.
Wow.
Yep. John flew in about 4 o'clock the evening prior, and he killed that bear at 7:03 a.m.
Crazy.
Yep. And I'm nothing but happy about that. And it's funny. I wanted to mention that because I was just excited to help John get his bear. John is actually the one client of mine that did not have an opportunity in the last 5 years. So,
really?
To loop on that story. Yeah. John,
Nice.
John's become a good friend and great client of ours. And so when he was in town at the same time, it was actually kind of a rehunt situation for him where we had him back and he was going to be in town. And the outfitter asked if I'd like him to come hunt with me. He was like, absolutely, bring him in. I'll share my hunt with them. And so flew him in, and lo and behold, King Kong walked out the first morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, John, you got to kill this bear. I would. If you don't, I will.
Sure.
And then the really neat part about that, just paying it forward a little bit, on day 7, after John had flown out, he's long gone, Cody, the guide, and I were still hunting. Day 7, I killed a wolf off of John's bear's target.
Love it. I got a picture of that actually too.
And that wolf, after taking that wolf, I was like, man, if I end up not killing a bear on this 10-day hunt, like, hey, mission accomplished. A wolf is a lot harder to kill than a bear, hands down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that particular wolf was an old male with like worn down, broken teeth, real big wolf. So I was super stoked to have him.
Sure.
Yeah. And then the very next day after killing that wolf, I ended up killing my bear. So it was just really special hunt. Doubled on that one.
That's super awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the last grizzly bear hunt I did actually was last year in the spring, and that was like a spot and stalk backpack style hunt. And that one's pretty cool because that one I hunted for myself for 10 days, and then I stayed in the field with the outfitter and guide to start building days towards my assistant guide license in Alaska. And so that was a really cool experience. I got to hunt for myself, and then I got to serve as a co-guide and packer for one of the outfitters that we work with, and hunted with a client for 10 days. So that was a really cool experience. I took a really nice boar on that one.
Have you done a report on that one?
I can't remember if I have, to be honest with you. I thought I did.
I'm not seeing it.
I may have drafted it, but maybe I didn't submit it yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
I'll get it to you after the podcast so people can look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was a cool trip. That one's in completely different country, and then hunting them in the spring, you're hunting them in the rut versus hunting them over like salmon streams and blueberry fields in the fall.
Right.
So very different hunt. The bears are a lot more aggressive. They move a lot more. It's a lot more physically demanding. And then that was in a different area of Alaska. That was in Western Alaska, not Northwestern Alaska, like the last 2 grizzly bears before that. Same deal with that one. I wanted to take an exceptional bear, trying to hold out for something really cool or really big, and ended up shooting one that was really big and really cool. It was a boar that was like 8 foot on the button. I want to say 24 and 3/8. There might have been a 16th in there. Yeah, it'll play Bruin Crockett. Had a broken off K9, big boar, blonde, really, really, really cool bear.
Yeah, I don't think you did a trip report because I'm not seeing it.
I'll have to get that to you.
Yeah.
So so I've been fortunate to go on a few grizzly bear hunts and learn a lot about grizzly bears. But grizzly bear and brown bear hunting, they're very similar. The concepts are very similar in that they're both the type of hunt that is 90% patience and boredom and 10% pure excitement.
Yeah.
And that's why bear hunters go back. It's that 10% that draws you back, not sitting on top of a brown bear knob for 10 days in the wind and rain and cold and wet. It's the stalk and going in for it that gets you going back and gets you excited. So,
yep, absolutely. I've been on 2 brown bear hunts. I've never been on a grizzly hunt. And I blanked on both. I hosted one, and my hunter, I was going to kill one after my hunter, and he got one last morning, 10-4, squared 10'4", and it was on the peninsula.
Thanks.
That was awesome, but it is exactly that. That reminded me. It was 99% cold, sitting in the same spot for 10 days, just glassing and glassing and glassing. And honestly, a little bit boring. It was in the spring, not a lot of game to see, but then once you spot them, it is game on. It was awesome. Very, very cool.
And that's the most effective technique hunting bears, because bears are so sensitive to human scent that you don't want to move around if you don't have to, because you're spreading your scent and then you're pushing bears farther from your location. So like on my 2022 grizzly bear hunt, we literally flagged a trail from the tent to the glassing knob and walked in the same footsteps the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't go, hey, let's go glass a mile over there or a mile over here. No, you keep your movements small, especially for the first 3 to 5 days before the wind switches around, because you could have a bear living on you just a few hundred yards away, and he might not know you're there. And so if you start just running up and down the gravel bar, hey, let's go look off that mountain, let's go look off this one, you're actually going to ruin your spot.
Yeah, kind of like moose hunt.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the same deal with brown bear. You don't want to move around a whole lot. You want to see what's nearby before you start pushing out, spiking out, doing any of that. You might see one that you want to go after a few miles away, which in that case, it's all hands on deck, but you want to keep your movement small for sure.
That's cool. You flagged it out. We did the same walk too, but
Mhm.
we didn't get that extreme. That makes sense though.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That is awesome.
And actually, ironically, my guide on that one, he had this book in camp with him. It's kind of funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like one of his rainy day books. Yeah, he recommends it to clients too.
Cool.
Touching on bear hunting in general, one of the messages I really wanted to convey on this podcast is, why would you want to bear hunt right now? Well, right now, I believe that we're in the golden age of bear hunting in Alaska. So what does that mean? Where am I getting this information? Well, right now, just looking at what we see in the industry, the market, demand, availability, animal densities, quality of hunts, everything, and just all encompassing all of that into the equation. Right now, I believe we're in the golden era of bear hunting. Caribou hunting, sheep hunting, they're at an all-time high in demand, as well as, unfortunately, at a low and in declining populations in some case. Increased demand, less animals to hunt, less opportunities for all of us, and more expensive.
Yeah.
Moose hunting, mountain goat hunting, Sitka blacktail, black bear, those are all going very steady as well. But bear hunting is just at an all-time high point right now.
And you're
Quality of
talking specifically black or brown bears and grizzlies, or you think
brown and grizzly.
Yeah.
I think black bear is always going to be good. And black
I do
bear is
too.
one of the things that just kind of comes and goes in popularity. And the thing about black bears, unfortunately, it's kind of polarizing, because you have, half a dozen provinces in Canada, lower 48, Alaska. I mean, shoot, even into Mexico, you have black bears from just south of the Arctic Circle all the way down to nearly the Yucatan Peninsula. There's so many options out there that it's honestly a little polarizing, unfortunately, even though black bear hunting is incredible.
I love bear hunting. I love it.
I do too. Especially like spot and stock backpack style. That's been my favorite. But sitting on a bait up in Canada and watching Canadian bears come in, Canadian bears are a different animal entirely. Genetically, they're the same, but they are not the same animal.
And you can kill two.
Yeah, you go to Canada and you're targeting like 6.5 to 7 foot plus bears versus like lower 48, realistically 6.5. I mean, even an upper 5 foot class black bear in the mountains, that could be an old bear.
Right.
Completely different animals. And also bears in the lower 48, black bears, they're very weary in Canada. That's where you see those videos of bears climbing up ladders, sniffing trees, walking right in daylight. It just doesn't really happen in the lower 48. All right.
Yeah.
They're just too weary.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, bears are so fun to watch. It's one thing I like about hunting from a tree stand over a bait. It's just being able to see the bears and their interactions with each other, and they're just cool animals to watch.
They are. And that's one of the things that I do actually really enjoy about brown bear and grizzly bear hunting. That going back to that 90% boredom, patience versus 10% pure thrill and excitement. Well, part of that 90% is watching bear behavior. I mean, you're watching bears all the time, and you get to see bears do bear things like fishing, chasing each other around, hunting, foraging, flipping rocks. It's pretty neat to see.
Yeah, they're just busy. They're just busy. Yeah, they're cool animals.
They are. I think I probably took like 2 to 3 hours of film on my phone this last spring on that hunt. Just filming bears doing bear things. They're so fun.
Yeah. We need to get that put on YouTube.
Yeah, we do. We can get that to our film team, right?
Yeah.
They talk to my web guy. Yeah. I'll make some more projects for you. Don't worry.
That's good. I'm used to it.
But yeah. So we're in the golden age of big bear hunting. There's never been a better time to plan a trophy bear hunt in Alaska, whether it be brown bear, grizzly bear, spot and stalk, baited, spring, fall. There's a lot of options out there. We're going to dive into that a little bit too. A big thing I wanted to touch on is a question I get a lot, and I think there might be some misconceptions out there. What is the difference between a brown bear and a grizzly bear? There's actually a really simple answer to this, but I'm going to kind of geek out on it a little bit too. So all grizzly bears are brown bears, but not all brown bears are grizzly bears. All brown and grizzly bears are the same species, Ursus arctos. However, the interior grizzly is considered a separate subspecies. They're genetically different, however, and can be tested to find the difference biologically. At one point, believe it or not, prior to 1950, there were 9 species classifications of brown bear and 74 species for grizzly bears. Thankfully, since then, biologists have whittled it down to 2, the coastal brown bear and interior grizzly bear. Geographical difference between the two is not if a bear is close to the coast, and not per se, but if a bear is north or south of the 62nd parallel line, Alaska. 62nd parallel line is a horizontal line across the southern tier of Alaska. Coastal brown bears are located south of that line. Interior grizzly bears are found north of that. So that is the simplest explanation, of course, and they do wander back and forth. But if a coastal brown bear decides to head north, it does not exactly mean that it is just magically becoming an interior grizzly. So that's clear as mud, right?
Yep.
And I wanted to articulate it that way because I get a lot of questions like, hey, I want to hunt a Kodiak brown bear or a Kodiak grizzly, or I want to hunt an interior grizzly. And sometimes people will tell me, I want to hunt a grizzly bear, but they actually are saying, I want to hunt a coastal brown bear. And so it really is as simple as a coastal brown bear species of bear is south of the second parallel line in Alaska and lives in areas such as southern Alaska, southeast Alaska, the peninsula, and Kodiak Islands. An interior grizzly lives north of the second parallel line. All of interior Alaska, northern Alaska, all of it. Those are all classified as grizzly bears. And there's been several situations where, let's say, around that line, it starts to blur a little bit. And then you have let's say a 9-foot brown bear wander north for some reason and then gets killed. Well, that doesn't make it the new world record grizzly. There's genetic testing that goes in those circumstances. And just physically, they look very different. They're very physically different animals. A brown bear is much stockier. They're a lot bigger and just bulkier all around in appearance. And there's actually even a 4-inch difference in skull size for minimum Boone and Crockett entries. 24 on a grizzly and 28 on a brown bear. So they're very different animals, both physically in appearance as well as genetically. They can actually test for it, but they are considered
act different too.
Very much so. Interior grizzlies are much more aggressive animals because they have to hunt and fight and forage for food. Whereas coastal brown bears, the reason they're so big, well, they live on a very high fat, high protein coastal diet, and they scavenge for the most part. Like a brown bear will go live on a whale for a month.
Right.
So they're nearly as aggressive.
Don't have to work as hard to make a living. I can relate to that. I'm pretty scrappy too.
Yeah. Yeah, works that way in humans too over time.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, sure. That's right. Hey, does that hold true in Russia, the 62nd parallel. Yeah, 60-second parallel line.
So,
You know,
negative. Over in Russia, the bears are all considered brown bears.
that's what I thought.
This is my understanding anyways. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I checked before the podcast. So in Russia, they're all considered brown bears. And then touching on that also, once you cross over into Canada, they don't have a brown bear, grizzly bear separation.
Distinction.
They call them all grizzly bears. However, in Canada, Canada also classifies, and I want to say, which I should have checked this before the podcast, I think
I can check.
SCI, I think it has a classification for mountain grizzly, Arctic grizzly, and then interior grizzly, I think, because grizzly bears are found all the way into northwest, northern, and Nunavut territories up in the Arctic, as well as far south as like British Columbia, and then of course into the lower 48. And everywhere in the lower 48, we call them grizzly bears. So we don't have a coastal brown bear in the lower 48, even though the lower 48 grizzly bears are south of the second parallel line. So that 60-second parallel line rule is exclusive to Alaska.
Okay, so I looked this up. Yes, Safari Club International, SCI, does have different grizzly bear classifications based on their geographical location, which can affect trophy score and record keeping. SCI typically distinguishes between grizzly bears and other bear species like brown bears as the two are blah, blah, blah. Actually, that just says what you just said. It doesn't say anything about Arctic. So I think they have mountain grizzlies, Arctic grizzlies, and inland grizzlies. I think that's what SCI has. I tried looking it up, but I'm sure I didn't find.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. And there's also Eurasian brown bear.
Which that would be the Russian brown bear.
It would. And the ones we have in like Croatia, we have a pretty good hunt over there.
We do. That's a baited hunt.
Yep. Baited night hunt.
A baited night hunt, and very, very affordable. Probably a third the cost. No, not probably. It is a third the cost of an Alaskan coastal brown bear.
Yep.
And also on that one, you can go sightseeing and touring with your wife in Croatia at the same time.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Which actually, I think every single one of those trips that I've planned has been a family trip for a guy.
Right. They have. Yeah. And they've been 100% successful as far as I know.
Pretty close. Very high success. And one of the keys to that is timing. Certain times of spring, certain times of fall, and a minimum of 7 days is what that operator likes to see in order to get our clients opportunity.
Yep. And they're good sized bears. They're big grizzly size, it seems. Not coastal brown bear Alaska size, but big grizzly, what I would call it.
Exactly. And you're probably not going to shoot like a 8.5, 9 foot bear there. It's going to be like sub 8 realistically and representative. They have different scoring system. We do everything by the square of the cape as well as the square of the skull, but they have a different scoring system over there called CIC score. I won't go into that too much, but essentially a representative bear is like around 7 foot. Basically, is what that translates to. I believe a CIC of 300 is considered representative, which approximates to about a 7 foot and 7.25, something like that. So, yeah, a lot of options for grizzly bear and brown bear. A lot of different styles of hunts you've heard us mention so far. In Alaska alone for grizzly and brown bear, we have offerings for both spring and fall season. We have spot and stalk, baited, backpack style, base camp, spice camp style, cabin, lodge base for both brown and grizzly bears.
Snow machine. There's some snow machine.
Snow machine hunt. That's another one. That's a big thing for Russia, actually, for Russian brown bear. The hunts are conducted in the early spring when they have deep snow. And so they actually pull the hunters behind in a traditional sled, kind of like a Arctic polar bear or muskox hunt. So they pull the hunter behind. The snow is so deep in Russia at that time, you can't even physically walk through it in most areas. So when the hunter gets out, you probably sink up to your hip almost, covering ground on snow machine. And they see a lot of bears on that hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. That new hunt, did you see the new hunt that Nick and I loaded this morning?
I looked at it briefly. That's a early season grizzly bear hunt, isn't it?
It is. Yep. Yeah. Out of Alaska. And it's a snow machine based hunt out of a lodge, out of a cabin.
Yep. Go
So,
cruise around, look for bears emerging from the den, early season hunt.
Yep.
Yep. That's a neat way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be different.
Different, cold, but
Yeah,
you're
cool.
also some advantages to that. Also, you're able to get bears as soon as they come out of the den. So the fur quality is going to be at its absolute best.
Yes.
But comparing spring versus fall, yeah, that's another thing to contrast and touch base on the fur quality. I personally have found that fall bear quality is great. 2 of the bears I have are fall bears, and the fur is phenomenal. However, the spring bears, they do tend to have a little bit longer fur and slightly more full, but you have a higher margin of fur quality in the spring because oftentimes bears rub while in the den or as soon as they come out of the den. So that's especially true with brown bears for whatever reason, where you're not only judging the size, the age class, the sex, but also the fur quality and are they rubbed on a brown bear. I was talking to the guide that I apprenticed under here last spring, and he was telling me all kinds of stories about how down there on Kodiak, where he guides as well, they're passing on 9.25 foot bears if they're half rubbed. And on Kodiak, a 9 to 9.25 foot bear could be a Boone and Crockett bear,
Right.
because Kodiak is very well known for exceptionally large skulls. So, and that's good to touch on too, actually. I love geeking out about bear hunting, obviously, but some of the largest brown bears in Alaska are taken from areas such as Kodiak and Afognak Island, as well as the Alaskan Peninsula. The peninsula, on average, puts more bears into the Boone and Crockett record books. I believe the statistic is 7 out of 10 over the last X number of years came from the peninsula. The other 3 from places such as Kodiak Island, Afognak, and Southeast Alaska. So why that discrepancy? Well, the peninsula is huge. Imagine the peninsula being about the size of the state of Florida. Let's call it that. Whereas Kodiak and Afognak Islands, they're just small islands. So per capita, different sample sizes. That's what it comes down to. However, in general, the peninsula has been known to produce a longer bear, so a larger scoring squared bear, but not on the skull. You could have a 9.5 to 10 foot bear on the peninsula that does not make Boone and Crockett record books. However, most bears exceeding 9.25, 9.5, let's call it, on Kodiak are going to exceed the Boone and Crockett minimum, because on average, Kodiak Island produces a larger skull than the peninsula. So, little fun fact there. If you're thinking, do I go to Kodiak? Do I go to Peninsula? Which one do I do and why? Well, we send a lot more clients to Peninsula because it's not a draw. So there's guaranteed tags there, whereas most areas of Kodiak are a draw. And when you can say, hey, I'm planning my once in a lifetime $30,000 to $35,000 brown bear hunt in Alaska, and I want to go in 2025, 2026, 2027, I need to put a date on the calendar and go. That's the Peninsula. Whereas if someone can be flexible for 1 to 2 years, have a little bit of flexibility in their schedule, and they want to target Kodiak to get the Kodiak experience, then that's a great option too. So, but that's all stuff that we can talk about if anyone's interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've hunted both the Peninsula and Kodiak both times in the spring for brown bears. And I think I heard the Peninsula.
Yeah. Yeah. They both definitely have their strong suits. I think that just from what I have seen with my clients and the operators that we work with, there are very good spring and fall options in both of those locations. However, each individual hunt and location has its strong suits. And I'll be very upfront with the client about that. For example, one of the Kodiak brown bear hunts that we offer is just incredible in the spring, but they do struggle in the fall because their particular region of the island doesn't get that strong of a salmon run typically. And that would happen in the fall. And so it's going to be a tougher hunt in the fall than the spring. So,
And they probably have great denning areas, and that's why they're there in the spring.
Exactly.
Probably.
Exactly. And so those are differences that we're going to talk about. if I'm talking to a client on the phone and we're getting into kind of the micro dissecting aspect of picking out which season, which date, which location, I'm going to contrast all those differences for them. Whereas over on the peninsula, the outfitter, our primary outfitter that we work with for peninsula brown bear hunts, they have one of the best areas for fall brown bear. Their area has some of the best salmon runs, and the last 3 fall brown bear seasons in his area, he has had 100% opportunity within the first 4 days of the season for every client. Yeah. Last year, well, it wouldn't be last year because fall seasons are on odd years. Spring seasons are on even numbered years on the peninsula. The last fall season, which would have been 2023, every client was tagged out in the first 3 days. Pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. On a fall hunt, which is contrary to popular belief that spring hunt is always better than fall. Well, it depends on the location.
Yeah. And how cool would it be? Has Gary ever told you about his fall, I think it was a grizzly hunt, where he shot the bear as it was fishing in the river? He stalked it and shot it in the river as it was fishing.
He did, yeah.
It's one of the coolest bears. We actually should do a podcast with him, just telling that story because it sounds awesome. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's kind of touching on another aspect too. Gary is a hardcore bow, so archery versus rifle. Well, grizzly and brown bear hunting with archery equipment is very difficult in Alaska. And if somebody wanted to hunt brown bear or grizzly bear with a bow, I would encourage someone to do a fall hunt in an area with a strong salmon run to be able to hunt salmon streams when bears are distracted, or do a baited hunt with a rifle, either or. So I think Gary would agree.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We should talk about our baited hunt, by the way.
Should. That one's been extremely popular for us. That one I think is actually booked a couple of years out now.
Yeah.
But a baited brown bear, baited grizzly bear hunt is going to be at a significantly lower cost than a fly-in, spot stock, base camp type hunt. Reason for that, well, the overhead of having a charter flying somebody into a base camp and a guide and equipment, more remote areas, all of that adds up. So on average, you're going to have a baited hunt that is anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 less than a fly-in 10-day base camp, site camp style brown bear grizzly bear hunt. So they're more affordable. They are, say, more accommodating to archery hunters. They're more accommodating to hunters that might need a lower impact experience, less physically demanding, and they're just more affordable. So that's a great option. However, brown bear and grizzly bear, they are a lot more difficult to hunt over a bait than a black bear. A black bear is very patternable over a bait, whereas a brown bear typically is not. So when you hunt them in the spring over bait, you're trying to pattern sows that are coming in, and the boars are just cruising bait to bait, looking for sows. And so you might not see the same boar multiple times in a week on a bait. You might just be cruised by and then going to another bait. They're also a lot smarter than black bears. So I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of podcasts, we should do one with Russ on. He's been up a couple times trying to get a brown bear with his stick bow.
Yeah.
0 for 2.
Yeah.
But it's had opportunities and they're just smart.
Yeah. He's had opportunities and arrows have flown, but smart thing to do, no matter what anybody says. Whenever someone asks me on any hunt, doesn't matter what it is it archery conducive? And I bring my bow. First thing I say is that, yeah, anything can be done with a bow, obviously. However, success rates, opportunity rates are always going to be lower than with a rifle, right? It's no secret that bow hunting is a lot harder. It's a lot more demanding. Every single aspect is that much more critical. You have a shorter effective range, and putting an arrow in a bear it's harder to kill one with an arrow than a bullet, in my opinion. It's kind of a heartbreaker because I have several clients that have killed bears with a bow, and A lot of times it takes 2 or 3 times to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's asking a lot. It can be done.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. On
It's
my
done.
Kodiak hunt, I bow hunted. And honestly, looking back, it was mostly due to the terrain. Lots of alders. Well, it was like a band. We were on hills and it was grassy, mostly grassy, and we could really see, but there was a band of alders in between where the bears were above them and us. And it was just too hard. The terrain was just too difficult because you made so much noise going up through, or the bears were all moving too. So we'd have to swing way around and then try to get up through the alders, and it's a couple 100 yards of thick. And if you've never tried to bust through alders, you're in for an experience in Alaska for sure. And by the time you get up there, you have no idea where they are, or you see them and they're 3 ridges away. And it just wasn't where I was in Kodiak. It just was not conducive to bow hunting at all. Not at all. I don't know. People do it. People get her done. Yeah.
It's tough.
Yep.
It can be done.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned Russia.
Yes.
Wanted to touch base a little bit on Russia. So why Russia? Well, the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia right now is the highest trophy potential producing location for trophy brown bears in the world right now. That's why.
That
If
is why.
someone called us and said, "Hey, Kyle, I want to kill a 10-foot plus bear and I want to go to Alaska," I'm going to try to talk you into Russia first because, of course, areas like the peninsula and Kodiak do have 10-foot bears. They're much lower per capita than the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia. Russia also is going to be the greater value and the bigger adventure. Now, what does that mean? Russia is going to cost $5,000 to $10,000 less door to door than going to Alaska on average. The logistics are much more complex, as well as having to be a little more patient expediting your trophy home. Whereas Alaska, 1 or 2 flights via Alaska Airlines, you're up there and you're chartering into the field. Really straightforward. Wildlife gallery your stuff home after your hunt. That's it. Super straightforward. Alaska's a wonderful option, but for somebody that wants to target a true 10-foot plus brown bear, Russia is the place to do it, hands down.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
We have the right outfitter to do that too.
We do.
Previous years, we had options, but nobody we really felt super comfortable with. And so we tried to steer people away. But we have the right outfitter now.
Absolutely. I was going to touch base a little bit on that too, because we do have some availability for this year. If there's anyone looking, I can kind of dive into that if you want to, Cory.
Go for it. Yeah.
Currently available hunts in 2025. I've got a couple options that I just wanted to touch base on, and I'll kind of overview the style of hunting and the previous year's statistics with those hunts, just to kind of give you a general idea. But please reach out if you'd be interested in going this year so we can go through all the details. There's always so much to go over on these hunts.
And how do you want them to reach out to you, Kyle?
We can include our email, cell phone, and social media information in the bio of the podcast.
Okay.
People can go to our website, outdoorsinternational.com. You can call me directly. My cell phone is 319-66917. You can email me, khansen@outdoors-international.com. You can also find me on Instagram. I try to be very available. We want you to call us. Don't be shy.
It always cracks me up. Kyle's willing to give out his phone number. Cracks me up every day. You would not find me doing that. There's no way. Don't call me.
Well, my job. Oh,
Yeah.
I want people to call me to plan hunts.
Yep.
I'm not shy about it. This is what I do.
No.
Full time, all day, every day. You know what? I've actually been on several podcasts and given my personal cell phone number out live on every single one. And the host normally just jaw drops, like, I can't believe you just did that. You're like, well, on average, 1 or 2 people call me per podcast I've ever done. And,
Yeah, that's not bad.
usually
Yeah,
down the road, I'll have a few people reach out, and I really do mean it. I want people to reach out to me so we can plan hunts. That's what we do.
yep, absolutely.
Makes no difference to me if it's text, call, email, social media, and you can get to me the fastest if you just call me. So that's what it comes down to.
Cool. Sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're good. Interrupt me all you want. So hunts available this year. We have, starting with grizzly bear, we have spring grizzly bear hunts in Western Alaska. These are a fly-in, backpack, fight camp, and base camp style hunt. They can be tailored to the user ability. It's a 10-day hunt, spot and stalk, has the potential to be very physically demanding, or it can be lower impact if we need to tailor it to that. Touching on stats, last year the season went 5 out of 6 for successful kills, which, do the math, what is that, Cory? 85%?
Never asked questions. Yeah, the math. Idea.
I'd calculate it real quick, but I'm filming with my phone, so it would be like...
I can look that up. 5 out of...
But exceptional hunt. That's the one that I personally went on last year. The trophy quality in that area is incredible. Last year, the trophy quality on that hunt ranged from, I think the smallest bear was 7'6", and the largest was 8'6", and pushed 26 inches on the skull.
Monster.
Incredible.
That's 83%.
83. I wasn't too far off. 2%.
No,
So let's call it a solid 80 plus. And the year prior actually went 100%, 6 for 6. So that's a great hunt. It's very adventurous. That is a spring hunt in the rut. So a little bit different. The bears are moving a lot more. Could be colder. Also could be buggier. Just depends on how the weather goes. But great hunt. Thing that I remember most about that hunt is 24 hours of daylight. What a trip. And we were hunting bears like 18 hours a day. Just glassing our hearts out all day, every day. I don't even know how many bears we looked at on that hunt, but I killed a good one. We probably looked at 50 plus bears. Easy. Hunt. And I was there for 2 hunts, one for a client, one for myself. So we have a couple spots there. And then we also have our fall grizzly bear hunts. We do have, well, depending on when this airs, these are available at shows right now too, but we should have a couple spots there left over. That one is in September. That's a fall hunt, targeting salmon streams and blueberry streams. That's a 9-day hunt, fully guided, just like the spring hunt, less physically demanding. That is also a fly-in hunt and a base camp hunt. So that's the type of hunt where you just walk a few hundred yards a day to a glassing knob and glass for the most part until you spot a bear you want to go after, and then it's all hands on deck. But we can accommodate any ability level on that hunt. It's extremely successful. That's one of those hunts that I feel very comfortable saying that it's near 100% opportunity, because the last 5 years, it's been near 100% opportunity. I've never had a client go on that hunt and not see a bear, but I've had one client go and not have an opportunity at a bear. We talked about that earlier. So very, very productive hunt, and it's for grizzly bear, and we have great trophy quality there. Switching over to brown bear, we of course have the spring brown bear available in Kamchatka, Russia. As of today, I just talked to that outfitter this morning. There's maybe 1 or 2 spots available, so I'm not sure if that one's going to be available much longer because it is coming up here pretty quick. But like I said, that one is the highest trophy producing potential brown bear in the world right now. Last year, touching on stats, let's see. Last year, they took 11 bears with 4 hunters in less than 6 days.
It's not too shabby.
Yes. So would we call that over 100% success?
Yeah.
300% success?
11 bears with 6 hunters.
4 hunters.
4 hunters.
Which that's one of the beauties of that hunt in Russia. One of the things that makes it such a great value is you can take an additional bear. You can even take a 3rd bear if you want on trophy fee. So the first bear is included in the hunt fee, 2nd bear on trophy fee, also option for a 3rd bear. Most people probably are not going to take a 3rd bear, but the game density are high enough to support that, as well as the good management and low volume of hunters that they take. So literally 11 bears, under 6 days, 4 hunters. The smallest was just under 10 foot, and the largest were 2 over 11 foot. The rest exceeded 10 foot.
I can't even imagine putting my hands on an 11-foot bear. I can't.
What do you even do with that? I mean, it's a good thing you have a snow machine because you're not packing that out on your back like on a peninsula hunt.
Yeah.
It's not.
That brown bear that I hosted and my client killed last morning, that one was 10-4 on the peninsula. And when we walked up to him, his head was down he was digging beavers out of a beaver dam. So he died with his head down in the water. You just see like the back of his head. And I walked up and was gonna pick his head up, and it was too big. I had to like get my butt underneath me on the bank and lift it up. And his head was almost as big as me. He was huge. It was amazing how huge that thing was. It was amazing.
These animals are so humbling.
Jeez. Yeah. Yeah. So I can't even imagine 11-footer. Can't even imagine.
Yeah. I can't either. That's just unbelievable. Results speak, and we wouldn't say them if it wasn't true, in fact. So
right. Yeah.
And then, of course, we have fall brown bear on the peninsula, since it is a odd number year, 2025. It is a fall peninsula year. And we do have availability in that area I mentioned earlier for fall peninsula. I want to say we have just a couple spots there too. And like I said, we are in show season. So our goal is to advertise these not only through our website, through our podcast, social media, but also they are available at shows. So depending on when you listen to this, might be available, might not. So call us pretty quick if you're interested in going this year.
And if you're interested in next year, call us pretty quick.
Absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of future hunts too, everything that I've mentioned here today is also available for a future season and more. Like I said, this is a podcast mostly about brown and grizzly bear because I really wanted to touch base on those species hunting in Alaska, but we also do offer options internationally, as mentioned. We offer other species, black bear, polar bear. We offer all of these things, and they're available to book for future seasons at all time, pending availability, of course. But it's never a bad time to plan. And also the reality of these hunts is they are expensive. Grizzly bear and brown bear hunts, $25,000 to $35,000 US. That's what they cost. And there's some that cost more, even in exclusive or private or native land concessions with more expensive permits. Not everyone's going to be planning one of those inside of the same year. A lot of people plan them 2 to 4 years out even. And so, give us a call. Let's talk about a payment plan and get something put into motion to help you get your hunt reserved. Start working towards it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So like I said, most of my recent grizzly bear hunts took 2 years of planning each. So, budgeting, planning, saving, paying for them, that's part of it.
And prices are going to do nothing but go up.
Exactly. That's part of why I feel like we're in the golden age of bear hunting. It's never going to get any cheaper, and the hunting is phenomenal right now. And while those other species mentioned in Alaska are in high demand and low availability, you almost can't even find some of those other hunts available, and densities are declining. Bear hunts are wide open and they're phenomenal. So there's never been a better time to take a bear in Alaska. Yeah.
Are there combo options in Russia on the fall?
There are. It's good to touch on that. So in Russia, you can hunt brown bear in the spring or fall, but at least in our outfitters concessions over there, the spring bear hunting is much more conducive to success and taking larger bears. So if somebody wants to do a brown bear hunt in Russia, I'm going to encourage you to go in the spring. However, if you are there for a moose or a caribou hunt and want to take a brown bear on incidental, then that would be a great option. But it would very much be a first species, second species, third species priority type hunt. And what that means is you're there for a moose hunt first and foremost, and maybe a second or third species. So that would be the required expectation going into that hunt. I wouldn't want to set someone up on a fall brown bear hunt only for Russia, at least our area's concession. Like I mentioned, some areas have strong points, some have different strong points. That's how I would plan it. But touching on combo hunts, that's a good thing to talk about. Going back to grizzly bear versus brown bear, why would you hunt grizzly bear versus brown bear? What are the differences. We've talked about those a lot here, spring, fall, styles of hunting, physical size of the animal. But oftentimes I find that clients maybe aren't so worried about the species. And because grizzly bear is a little bit less money than a brown bear typically, like an average grizzly bear hunt costs around $25,000 right now. Well, a lot of grizzly bear hunts in Alaska have options to add additional animals on incidental. Like my fall grizzly bear hunt, I had a wolf tag in my pocket. I saw a wolf. I was able to take a wolf, and that was included in the price. There's no extra fee for that. It's purely incidental. Some of those hunts, you can add a caribou on trophy fee. Some of those hunts, you can add a moose on trophy fee. So fall grizzly bear hunts, they have the option to do combo and add incidentals. That's a real strong point for grizzly bear hunt. And then, of course, if somebody wants to take the largest bear possible, then that would be a coastal brown bear. So that's a big distinguishing factor there. But they're both phenomenal adventures, great experiences.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I do what I can. Brought to you by...
That's right. Good job, Holmes.
Yeah. What else we got here? We talked about international, domestic, pros and cons there a little bit.
I think we covered bear hunting pretty well.
So, yeah.
What do we have open for black bear this spring?
Quite a bit. We actually have some baited and spot and stock hunts available in the lower 48. Idaho is a great option for that. Guaranteed tags, decent predator densities. That's kind of my go-to for lower 48 bear hunting, honestly. We have really good operators there. Like I said, baited, spot and stock, a lot of pros and cons between the two. And also lower 48 bear hunts are super affordable and easy logistically versus going to Canada. You don't need a passport to go to Idaho. So that's a reality and why somebody might choose to stay lower 48
state.
Yes. We're not far from that, are we?
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, it's January 18th, so give us a call in a week.
Yeah.
But then, of course, spring black bear in Canada, there's a few options there, both spot and stock and baited. Each province of Canada has strengths and specialties for black bears, if you will. British Columbia is a province that you cannot bait in, so all of our hunts there are spot and stock. Alberta, you can bait in. One of the strong points there is you can take 2 bears in Alberta, and it's baited, so that's pretty cool. We actually have 3 different Alberta hunts. One of them's 5-star lodge. One of them based from a nice lodge that's kind of a cast and blast where you pike fish in the morning, bear hunt in the afternoon. And then we have another one that is just purely like a remote wilderness trophy baited bear hunt. Super cool option. Then we have options in Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, Manitoba. I don't think we do any bear hunt. No, we don't do any bear hunts over in Newfoundland. Although you can take a bear with a moose in Newfoundland. A lot of people do that.
True. You could. Yep.
And then almost all Canadian hunts, just FYI, are going to be spring hunts. The reason for that, almost all of these outfitters also have permits for ungulates, elk, deer, moose, elk. They're hunting ungulates in the fall. And so that does not align with their business model to do fall baited bear hunts or fall spot stock bear hunts, typically. However, bears are available on pretty much every single Canadian hunt as an incidental add-on. However, if you want to plan a Canadian bear hunt, 95% chance it's going to be a spring hunt. And the spring hunting for bears, in my opinion, is a little bit better in Canada than a fall. Every time I've done a Canadian bear hunt, it's always been spring.
Yeah, I always think that if I'm thinking Canadian black bears, I'm thinking spring.
Yeah,
for sure.
I agree.
Or a trophy fee add-on situation, just like you said. Yeah,
absolutely. And also, kind of touching base on what we started on the podcast, I would really like to hear what people would like to hear more about. I'm kind of a gear junkie, rifle, reloading, cartridge, nut, nerd on all that stuff. If somebody wants to hear about gear for bear hunting, how to prepare for travel for bear hunting, preparing for a bear hunt, bullets, cartridges, all that stuff, I'm all about it. Or any other topic. If anyone wants to hear a podcast about hunting story from Gary or Cory or myself from one of our bear hunts that we've done, hey, we could do a podcast just on one of those individual trips and go through that trip start to finish and hit all the nitty-gritty details instead of just breezing over like we did today. So if anyone wants to hear anything else specific, please reach out. We're all about it. Tell us what you want to hear.
I'm just going to throw out there right now, we have a really cool, if you're looking for a Valentine's gift, men, and you like to fly fish and potentially your wife likes to fish or your girlfriend likes to fish too, we have a really cool, inexpensive Belize vacation that's kind of tailored as a couples trip, that the price is pretty good. We're going to put out some information on it pretty soon, but I don't expect these to last long and the time is right for that. So reach out to us and we'll get Lacey actually in touch with you on that one. It's pretty cool. So any of you that like to fly fish, let us know if you'd like to know more about that.
Absolutely.
I don't have anything else, man. That was right at an hour.
Perfect. Well, I told myself I wasn't going to do on this podcast.
What's that?
And I just broke it.
I've done it a few times. So I tried the same thing.
Well,
but
continued improvement.
Software, I'm trying some new software and I think it has some AI and I think it's going to naturally I can hit a button and pull those out. Supposedly, we'll see.
Perfect. Well, the only other thing I wanted to touch on is if this podcast launches here in the next couple days, which today's January 18th, SCI Nashville starts this week, the 22nd through the 26th. I'll be there on the floor as well as working with some outfitters booths. So if you're going to be there, shoot me a text, give me a call. If you want to meet up, I'd love to meet you and chat about some hunts.
Absolutely. Give them a call, guys. Well, thank you, Kyle. It's Saturday afternoon. I think I'm going to go hang out with my family.
Same. My dog needs a walk.
That's right. Cool.
All
right. Thanks a lot. I'll try to get this out. Do you want me to wait and put it out Monday or just put it out? What do you think?
I say go ahead and put it out. If it's good to go, just put it out.
Okay. Will do. I'll work on that right now and get her out and get our hair.
Sounds great, man. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you later.